Right, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast and welcome to another League One Roundup show on this Sunday evening. I truly believe this was the most exciting and best match that we've seen so far this season. Is that because Oxford United went to Bolton Wanderers and got a very, very good 3-1 win? Maybe. But for other reasons as well, we've got 4-4 draws, some injury time drama, and I mean drama, some 4-2 wins, some really good games of football, as always, in this division. We're breaking it down, analysing the games, how do those games pan out tactically, also key players, because there's a lot of real standout individuals across this week. And of course, it doesn't stop here though, because we've got Monday night's Devon derby between Plymouth and Exeter City. I look forward to that. I'm going to be watching that live on Sky Sports. Got a little challenge for you as well. We haven't hit 100 likes on a roundup in a couple of weeks. Can we do that? It grows the podcast so much. It helps me out, and you're all amazing people. You watch it every single week. You're dedicated to the League One cause and the podcast cause as well. Please do me a favour, hit that like button. Can we hit 100 likes on this roundup show? That would be incredible. And also, we'll be able to hit 4,000 subscribers come Christmas. I don't know. That's down to you. Make it happen, you wonderful, wonderful people. Are you happy with your match week? Let me know in the comment section down below. I am. If you can't tell, I'm very, very happy. I go on, I moan about Oxford, and then we go to Fratton Park, and we go to Bolton Wanderers and earn 4 points from 6. I'll take it. I certainly will. Let's start off with Portsmouth, as they hosted Shrewsbury Town yesterday. For Pompey, it is another frustrating afternoon at Fratton Park. Another draw at home as well, and a game in which they dominated. They had more shots on target. You can see by looking at the graph as well. They were the dominant force, but they weren't able to win the game, and that is, at the moment, Danny Cowley and Pompey's issue. They are playing some good stuff. Some will argue that, to be honest with you, the chances and how they weren't very clinical at all yesterday. They probably didn't deserve more than what they've got. But they are, a forward-thinking side under Danny Cowley. They have been and they always will be. And, we saw they were on the front foot yesterday. But at the same time, you're not winning games of football, and you look at sides, look at Sheffield Wednesday, they're unbeaten now in quite a while. They won another game. Look at Plymouth, of course, they haven't played yet this week, but they'll, go to Exeter, probably the favourites. And if you just look back on what they have done so far this season, they've won 12 games from 16. Look, the margins and the gaps are slowly separating. You've got the sides not running away with it, but 27 points to 38 points, with only now one game difference in terms of games played between Pompey and Plymouth. There is a gap there, and quite a severe one, and one that ultimately, we speak about it all the time. This season more than ever, the competitivity really could be a problem. I look at Shrewsbury and how important that draw was. They haven't won a game in their last 3, and they actually did lose 2 before coming into this one. But their last 3 games haven't been easy. Charlton, they played Plymouth, of course, at the top of the league, and now Portsmouth. Those 3 games, they didn't get battered in either of those games, really, any of those 3 games, playing some top sides, going to Fratton Park and getting a 1-1 draw. They're going to certainly take that. Did they have to hang on? Yes, at times. Did they, really go to Portsmouth with a real attacking instinct? No, not really. Were they quite a physical side that want to try and grind the game down and try and play a different way and stop the rhythm and the momentum of Portsmouth and stop the individuals that are very, very talented and very good on the ball? Yes, and that was going to be the game plan. That always was going to be the way they were going to approach the match. Look, it's not the most attractive, it's not the best football, but it is always going to be a way of going to an away ground and making it difficult for the opposition, making it difficult for, let's be honest, the favourite in this game, Portsmouth, and of course the home side. With the difficulty of going to Fratton Park, a lot of sides have been there and haven't got the result thereafter, and coming away from the game with absolutely nothing at that ground. But Shrewsbury, they did it yesterday, and they did it through really holding tight, staying strong, and at times having to deal with the storm and weather the storm. But also, they did defend really well as well. By the way, Zach Swanson, what an absolute goal that was. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. Portsmouth's goal. Of course, it went 1-0 down. Elliot Bennett's got a bit of a goal out of nothing, really. It wasn't great defending. There wasn't really much going on. You can see by looking at the graph when the goal did come. It was a little spell, but it wasn't really quite significant. And then, thankfully, literally, and we're talking 3 minutes later, Zach Swanson goes up the pitch, cuts in from the right-hand side, of course, playing right back. Sort of haven't been given amazing amounts of opportunities, really, since he joined the club. Is he on loan from Arsenal? I believe he is on loan from Arsenal. And, he hasn't been given a handful of opportunities just yet, but a goal, and a really good goal in that, and in hindsight, a really important goal, because imagine you lose that game. He really did show that. Again, Danny, get me in that team, because they've sort of been worried with injuries, and there has been a bit of an injury issue. You can look at that midfield; it's probably not the preferred two. I look at Lowry, I look at Pack. That probably is the best two that Pompey have got. You've got Mingy, you've got Tunnicliffe. These are players that ultimately probably aren't the pair that Danny Cowley and really Portsmouth fans want to see. They want to see Lowry back in there. You'd argue Joe Morrell could be in there, but again, Marlon Pack not in the squad. Red card, injury, all these different things, that is playing a part, and we know the significance of him and how important he is, not just that midfield, but the entire Pompey squad. Dane Scarlett, Colby Bishop, they're the two strikers that, of course, have been playing a lot this season as that pair, and are doing a good job. Weren't able to get on the score sheet, either of them. Colby Bishop did have chances in the game, and unlike him, did miss quite a few. We'll look by opening up him, not literally, that would be quite painful, I imagine, for Colby. You can see in the game, one shot on target, 2 shots off target, 3 in total. It doesn't actually say how many big opportunities. He created 1 big chance. It doesn't say how many he's missed, unfortunately. But he did have a few chances in the match. And another day, that the quality of Colby Bishop, he probably should be taking some of them away. And in the second half as well, they were the better side. But I look at the possession stats, 75% possession, but only getting 3 shots on target with that much dominance. That's going to be the problem. And that's something that Danny Cowley, when he's dissecting the game, will have to now and try and improve on. But for Shrewsbury, and looking at the league table now, for Shrewsbury 11th, Portsmouth 5th, still in that top 6, but at the moment, the form they're on, they're quite inconsistent form, only 1 win from their last, I think it's 7, it's definitely 5 at that graphic there, but I think it does stretch a little bit longer than that. I could be wrong, and I do apologise, Portsmouth, if I've done you a little bit dirty there, but I'm hearing 7, it's definitely 5. I definitely should find out for the quality of the statistics that I'm giving to you, but either way, it's not really playoff form. It's definitely not automatic promotion form. That, of course, that's where they were come the start of the season and come the real early doors. We're now 16 games in. There's still a lot of time, but also 16 games is quite a chunk of the campaign. Let's move on to the next one. By the way, I'm on 4-0 Sunday Live either tonight, well, it is tonight, but for you watching it will be maybe in advance. It might have already happened. Definitely go and check it out. We'll be talking about the Oxford game against Portsmouth on Tuesday. Of course, that finished 1-1 at Fratton Park as well. What is it? Well, 1-1 draws. And draws really in general at Portsmouth this season. Let's go to Derby County. Let's go to Pride Park, because they were a side part of a 4-2 win. Actually just a 4-2 game, because there were quite a lot of 4-2s this weekend, and there was one man in particular who had quite a good game. He's played for Sheffield United. He's played in the Premier League and done a very good job in that division for quite a while. Of course, part of Chris Wilder's very successful Sheffield United side a couple of years ago. Now playing in League One. That's the kind of division that we are currently experiencing. Of course, I'm talking about McGoldrick. He scored a hat-trick in the game yesterday for Derby County. They needed to go and win this match, because Derby, I look at their recent form, they've been a little bit hot and cold. Inconsistency has played a bit of a problem. A 0-0 draw against Exeter City, and being the home side in that one will be seen as a disappointment. And the time before that, they lost 1-0 to Ipswich, which isn't, of course, a huge issue. I mean, it's not ideal losing a game of football, but Ipswich, with the quality that they've got, it's really that 0-0 draw against Exeter. No disrespect to Exeter, they did very well in the game, and also the new manager and the way that Exeter playing this season is quite good. But Derby County, the expectations and being the home side, they would have wanted more from the game, and that is what they got. It's what they got yesterday. They got a really, really important win. We've got to highlight Dave McGoldrick. We talk about key players. We'll talk about singling out those individuals. He had a good game. He did have a fairly good game. 9.9 rating on SofaScore. People sort of give their 9.9 and their sort of general SofaScore ratings a little bit of slander sometimes. But I think you probably got to give him at least, quite harsh, it's not a 10. I don't know whether it can go up to 10. But either way, it's pretty much a 10. And a hat-trick. It is not a bad day at the office. 3 shots on target. He scored 3 goals. Clinical and absolutely spectacular, and key in the way that Derby County approached this game. Both of those strikers in this quite prominent now, and I say prominent because we have sort of seen it, normally a 5 at the back for Derby County under Paul Warne. He's sort of changed formation a little bit, gone back to that back 4, playing sort of a 2, a triple 2, 4-2-2, but it's those James Collins and those Dave McGoldricks, those 2 strikers, that did cause problems. 4 goals between those 2 players, 3 for McGoldrick and 1 for James Collins. If you get those strikers scoring, you're going to be in for a good season. Could that be going a little bit too far when I look at going forward? But I think you could be in for a really good place, because those 2 strikers will have the ability that they've got, and we know how good they are in those forward areas and in front of goal. For Bristol Rovers, we've got to give them a little bit of quality, because, and a little bit of credit, should I say, because 3-1, it was a little bit of a little bit of hope there, 4-2, again, just before half-time, going into that second half. Could there be something potentially in the game for them? Of course, there wasn't, but they did give it a go, and we know how good Bristol Rovers have been this season, and this is how tight it is. They were, 14th, 13th going into this game. A little bit, maybe 15th, around the area, between 13th and 16th. Unfortunately, we can't see where they were and how that does leave them. But either way, they are now 16th. And I look at how good they've been in their recent games, Rovers. They went to Derby. They've been to, where did they go? They went to, quite recently, Hillsborough, and drew that game 1-1. And they went to Cheltenham and won 4-1. They've been to MK Dons recently, and they've won that game 1-0 as well. And their form has been good. And, there was a few people in the live stream I did on Friday talking about how Bristol Rovers could be an outsider chance for the top 6, or certainly top 10. Of course, this is a really difficult place to go, Derby County, and also Paul Warne's players, they were going to be so up for this game because they know a little bit of criticism has been coming their way quite recently because of the fact that they are Derby County and their recent results haven't been good enough, and the inconsistent side of things will be playing a part. Look at that league table; it's not really where Derby want to be. They've lost two. They've lost two in the last 5. They've won 2. They've drawn in their 24 points from 15 games. Losing 5 from 15 won't be where they wanted to be, and outside that top 6. But that's how difficult this league is, and that's how challenging this that's how challenging this league has been. But more than ever is this year the amount of top sides with big history and big stature. But as we know, speak to Sunderland fans, for example, speak to Charlton fans, Ipswich fans who've been in this league for quite a while, or were in this league for quite a while, that won't get you very far. It'll get you so far because you've got a brilliant fan following a lot of the time, but it won't get you the results, or solely enough the results on the board to get you up and get where you want to get to. And Derby County might be finding that a little bit of a challenge. But either way, I don't want to take anything away from it. I'm talking really about the past there. Looking forward now, that is a really good win against an in-form Bristol Rovers side. And they actually did that against Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough, during the week. They went there and they went for the kill. 57% possession, being the away side, is quite impressive. It certainly shows the intent of Joe Barton, the way that he wants his side to play on the front foot and take the game to the opposition, home or away. Size of club and quality of player, you could argue, or not. We're going to go there and we're going to make it really difficult and push them back and try and dominate the game and dictate the way that we want the game to go. And to be fair, you can't argue it. The stats do show that was his managerial and tactical intent. I look at the total shots though, maybe where they could have been slightly better. They still have more shots on target than Derby, but only 10 in total. Up those shots a little bit more, they could be looking at potentially a different kind of outcome. In the second half, they did need to create a little bit more than they did. They had some big chances after Derby came out the better side in the second half. But then you'd say it was fairly even for the last 20 minutes of the match. Bristol Rovers slightly more on top, but 4-2 up, Derby. They really just needed to hold on. A little bit of time wasting, two bookings leading into time wasting. You can see why it's part of the game. It's frustrating, but it's the way that this division and now football is. You've got to really do anything you can to get the win. I get it, it's annoying, but like I said in the Discord server, join the Discord server, by the way, link in the description. All League One chat and fan call-ins coming very soon. Speaking to you and on the podcast, of course. Like I said in there, it's the way of football, whether you like it or not. So that is that. And Derby, a very good win. Back to winning ways for them. Back on form. So that's my favourite part of the episode. It's Bolton Wanderers versus Oxford United. I wasn't able to do a match reaction straight after the game. I was at a boxing event, Katie Taylor's boxing event over at Wembley Arena. A really, really good day. I was following it and watching it here and there. But since then, I have now watched the game back. I've watched the goals back. And I was thoroughly impressed by Oxford United and what I saw from my side. And our side. It was a really, really good result and an exceptional performance to go with it as well. One I didn't really expect. Not many people would have called it. Bolton Wanderers were very confident going into this one. You look at where they are in the league table. Still after that defeat, they are in those top 6 places. But Oxford, we turned up and we put on a show and we just looked. And I know that's very, very basic and pretty rubbish analysis, but we did go to a very difficult place in very difficult circumstances. And let's be honest, not in great form. We put in a really good performance in that first half against Portsmouth. And then the second half, the game changed. A red card, very silly from Billy Bowden. Switched the game, 10 men, and I think we sort of got sucked into a really difficult moment that Portsmouth sort of, I think, took advantage of us and capitalised on having an extra man. But that first half performance was really, really good, and there was a lot of positives to take from it. I was always a little bit, I was also in that game, or after that game in reflection, thinking, we can't every single week. You can't go to these away grounds and play the way we did. We didn't play very good football. We weren't playing the way that Carl Robinson wants his side to play. And that's the reality of it. If you want to try and sort of get a run going, of course, try and nick some very difficult points against Portsmouth. I'm not moaning about that, by the way, but I am saying, look, you go to Portsmouth, it's fine on a one-off, but you've got to do it on a more consistent basis, playing better football if you want to do well in this league. And look, sides haven't played amazing football and got out of it. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I think you've got to... You can't play like we did. We tried to grind and bore every single neutral, if there was a neutral watching that match. Broxford, we didn't care. We got a point that we didn't see was going to be possible when heading into it. Portsmouth, they were left frustrated and felt they should have got more from the game. Or going into it, felt they wanted to get more from the match. A point probably was a fair result, even though that the goal was a very clear handball. That's a Portsmouth reaction. You can watch that on the channel now. Moving on to this one. Look, we made a few changes, or Carl Robinson made a few changes. Anderson came in for his first start in an Oxford United shirt. That gave us something a little bit different. He's dynamic, he's quick, he's pacey, and he gives us a real element of width. And that's exactly what Anderson and what Oxford United did and needed, because he is somebody that we don't really know too much about. He hasn't played in England, I don't believe, before he moved to Oxford United. He might have done, but he obviously played in Italy and had quite a few loan spells in Italy. He bought him from Lazio on deadline day, on the summer deadline day that's just passed. And I think he is really, really quite exciting. He's somebody that I think he's traditionally a right winger, right back, but he played as a right winger yesterday and did a really good job. He scored a really, really important goal. Was it the best goal he's going to score in his career? Probably not. He'll be hoping it probably isn't. But it was a really, really significant one on the 25-minute mark. And it was a goal that ultimately kick-started what was really quite a Bolton first sort of 20 minutes of the match. In 25th minute, we sort of gained a little bit of control, scored the goal. Refereeing, we'll touch on it really briefly because I feel like it's unfair not to chat about it. The refereeing, slightly lenient, some strange decisions towards Oxford United, or should I say against Bolton Wanderers. I saw one clip, I think it's when Kieran Brown clears a ball away. I think it's Connor Bradley that's sort of tracking him down and trying to press him, and he just very clearly, Kieran Brown kicks out for a throw-in and falls over as he slides or kicks it out. Either slips or sort of slide, kicks it, I'm trying to say. I think he slipped. Connor Bradley nowhere near Kieran Brown. The referee goes and gives a foul. It was it's bad officiating, isn't it? It's not what you want to see, whether you support the team or not. It looks quite embarrassing, doesn't it? It looks quite embarrassing. But thoroughly, I think we thoroughly enjoyed it. We did. I think we thoroughly deserved it as well. I think we did deserve to win the game. Difficult moments as well. I think we had to sort of dig in at sometimes. Dion Charles, when he made it 2-1, you think is the confidence going to sort of swallow us? Lack of confidence, should I say, swallow us up at this quite challenging point. But Steve Seddon, I think Carlson said the man mountain, comes off the bench and scores a header to make it 3-1. At that point, I think seals the 3 points for the Yellows on the road. And we're delighted by it. We're absolutely delighted by it. And is this now the real turning point? Because it's really weird, isn't it? You lose this game, you go, yeah, no chance turning point. Carl Robinson, he's got to go tomorrow. And that's just the way that football fans are when things aren't going the way that they want it to go, and where probably you argue it should go. And look, I can't also sit here as well and say that I didn't think Oxford United probably should part ways with Carl Robinson, because since the start of the season we haven't been good enough. The performance levels haven't been good enough. And this squad should be doing better. We have had injuries, that has played a part, but at the same time, it's quite a toxic place around the football club, and things probably do need to change sooner rather than later. Now, these last two performances have been really, really good. I'd say this one was a different level to Pond, because, like I said, I don't think you can play like you did against Portsmouth on a consistent basis, because that was quite painful. But we got a point, and in this game we get 3 points. 4 points from 6 from going to Fratton Park and to go to Bolton Wanderers is a very, very good place to be, and it lines us up nicely. It sets us up nicely for some really, really big games, but I was going to say, without sounding disrespectful, some games that Oxford United would expect to be winning, and this really could be the point where things start changing and the tide does start to shift. We'll have to wait and see. We've got a game against Fleetwood at home on Tuesday, and that's going to be interesting to see if Oxford can sort of bounce or continue to bounce forward, and I hope it is, because Ricardo Santos was actually, I was watching the game. He was
Gatton and O'Donker did really well against Ricardo Santos, and O'Donker came in, he held up the ball really well, the young lad, and he made it difficult. We didn't really, I think Bolton sort of set up and played the way they thought they would play. Trafford and goal, that back three, kind of Bradley on the right hand side, Jack Irondale. Look, that's a very strong Bolton Wanderers side. I'd say it's one of their strongest sides that they could field really. You'd argue maybe Dapo would start the game, Morley and also Dempsey are really good midfield options. That bench was really, really strong. I mean, it's an exceptionally strong bench, and Oxford United, we came through really well. Oxford, on the other hand, it's not as a strong bench. Without Marcus Brown, who didn't start the game. James Henry didn't start the game. These are some key players that weren't featuring for up until the 70th minute, and some would argue the 80th minute. And really, Lewis Bate was really, really good on his birthday as well. So congratulations to Lewis Bate. Happy birthday, happy 20th, and thank you very much for those 2 assists, some 2 very good assists, and 4 key passes across the 90. And we had to, and Carl Joseph, I've got to give credit to Carl Joseph. By the way, it's a little bit staggered because I'm sort of giving you things as we go. Kieran Brown did really well. Carl Joseph had an absolutely brilliant game, and it's typical, isn't it? I sort of moan about Carl Joseph, and not moan, but I sort of criticise him a little bit for the way that I think he hasn't been completely on it since he joined. I think he has had some quite poor games. It hasn't been as impactful as I think he should be and could be. Well, the last 2 games he's been very, very good, and you can't argue with it whatsoever. So in terms of the league table, you look at it now, Bolton's still in that top 6. Oxford United now 18th in the league. So we are slowly climbing, slowly but surely. We're getting ourselves out of trouble. We have got a game in hand on both sides. That was a mixture of both and most. Most sides in the league. We're on 15. Only Lincoln City, Derby and Portsmouth. And I think, is that it? Have also only played 15 games. So we have got a little bit of a cushion. I mean, look at Bristol Rovers and Cambridge. We actually have 2 games in hand on them. So if we win our 2, which is a big if, and I almost don't want to say it, we'll add 6 points on top of that, which would get us to 24, which could arguably get us right back in the mix around mid-table, potentially in that top half. So that is, of course, hindsight and a long way away, and a lot of ifs, buts and maybes, but it certainly is a doable thing. And if Oxford play like they did against Bolton yesterday, there's no reason why we can't be. But it's exciting times, really, in these last 2 matches. A lot of encouragement, and I'm happy. I'm not going too over the top, but I am certainly pleased. Finishes Bolton 1, Oxford United 3 in Sky Bet League One between those 2 sides. Right then, let's go to the 4th game, which would normally be the last game, but I'm telling you, it's not the last game. The penultimate game of this jam-packed 5-game roundup on this Sunday evening. We are going to go to Sheffield Wednesday because they were part of a 4-2 game, and one of quite a few 4-2 games this afternoon, or yesterday afternoon. A 4-3-3 for Sheffield Wednesday. That was a little bit of a change in the way that Darren Moore approached the match. Not one that we expected, but it worked. It did work. It gave them the ability to play a little bit more expansive. It allowed them to also play a little bit on the front foot, and it got more of these attacking players in the starting 11. That front 3 gave Michael Smith and Patterson the ability to start, and Wilkes as well on that right-hand side. Only really one defensive midfielder, you'd say, or one real holding midfielder in Backerson. Barry Bannon and Bashru, definitely the 2 attacking players in that 3. And then Marvin Johnson and Palmer, those 2 fullbacks as well. Also, not as much licence to go for because they are playing in a back 4, but they will provide you that width and the brilliant quality of ball into the penalty area from those wide areas. But again, you're playing with those wingers, actually, so they can do that. Callum Patterson would probably play a little bit more inside there. He's not really an out-and-out winger. Callum Wilkes, on the other hand, Malik Wilkes is certainly somebody that can do that. It's 2-0 at half-time. Michael Smith and Barry Bannon on the score sheet. 2 players that know League One now very, very well. Barry Bannon, another exceptional game. That man is a joke, and he continues to be a little bit of a cheat code in Sky Bet League One, and has now been since Sheffield Wednesday got relegated last season. He's a really, really good player. Goals, assists, his output is absolutely brilliant, and it could have been more. Lee Gregory also missed a penalty. It could have been 5-2, or at that point 5-1. Malik Wilkes, of course, hasn't actually started a lot of games so far this season. He also came and scored. Bashru, also another attacking midfielder in that 3. And then Sam Winnell. God, Sam Winnell scored. I didn't even see that. Sam Winnell scored. That is a rarity, if I've ever seen one. He did get on the score sheet, but it was only a consolation goal at 4-1. Thomas Hammer did try and get it back and try and get really back in the game. That would have been some pretty spectacular stoppage-time drama to come back from 4-2 down late on. We'll come to Charlie Ipswich in just a second. Thomas Hammer Does make it 4-2, but it is another consolation goal essentially, and it does finish 4-2. In terms of the way the game panned out, first half definitely Sheffield Wednesday's. Burton had a bit of a moment, and we have seen an improved Burton Albion style and the way that they have been playing, but Sheffield Wednesday, I think that the quality told in this match. But Burton started the sort of arguably the stronger side. I mean, it's quite close, but you were slightly edged towards them, and then Sheffield Wednesday kick-started, scored 2 goals, and dominated the rest of the half. Moving on to the second half, Sheffield Wednesday make it 3-0. You slightly argue against the run of play, and then a really dominant Sheffield Wednesday spell weren't able to take their chance. It then goes to being 4-1, and then potentially 5-1, and then Sam Winnell and Thomas Hamer scored those 2. So that penalty did happen in between those 2 Burton goals. In terms of the stats, would you expect this? 54% possession to Burton Albion, the away side, 16 shots to 7, 11 shots to 4, but Burton Albion with more of the ball away from home at Sheffield Wednesday. That is very, very interesting. It does see Sheffield Wednesday now third in the league, continuing on their unbeaten run. 34 points from 17 games. As for Burton, they're still bottom of the league. 12 points from 17. 11 defeats now. That was their 11th defeat of the campaign. Back-to-back losses for them. It's tough, isn't it? It's tough at Burton. It's not completely over, though, because 12 points is now not as much, really. Accrington, of course, who lost again, they're on 16 points. So 4 points. 5 points, you're really sort of closing in on the between 18th and 20th, and they'd certainly take that come the end of the season if you ask any Burton fans right now. But yeah, it finishes 4-2. They gave it a go, but Sheffield Wednesday, I think, were just too good, really, and I think quality told at the key moments in that game. Right, let's move on to the final fixture. We don't normally do 5, but let's treat ourselves to 5, because we cannot miss out this game of football. Charlton versus Ipswich at the Vale. This was absolutely hilarious. And not because Ipswich drew and bottled it, because I did bottle it, I'd say. You know, when you're 4-2 up in the 90 plus 6th minute and you don't win that game, that is a little bit, well, disappointing, isn't it? It's disappointing. The reason why it's funny is because I was, like I say, I was out yesterday and I was with a Charlton fan. We're on the underground and we see 4-2. Well, we're sort of following the game as it is. We follow the game. We see 4-2. And of course, as you know, if you've ever been on the underground, if you live in the UK or have been to London, you'll know the underground. Not the best reception, funnily enough, for something that is underground. And we saw 4-2 just before we went down onto the train, onto the platform, when we did have a little bit of signal. And then, as we sort of just came out of the underground, and still not great reception, I just see a notification. Charlton 4, Ipswich 4. Bear in mind, the last time that we checked it, 90th minute, I think it was actually injury time, just in the injury time, 90 plus 2, and it was 4-2. We saw the Ipswich goal, which was, yeah, it was 4 goals in injury time. We saw it was 4-2 in injury time. Sam Morsey in the 4th minute, and that was game over. Game over, surely. There's no way back now. Conceding 2 goals in injury time is game over. 4-2. We then come out of the underground. I see 4-4. Now the connection isn't great. So I'm clicking on this thing. 4-4. It's 4-4. I promise you. And we got a lad, Ryan Faulkner. Shout out to you, Ryan. Big Charlton fan. And I'm going. It's 4-4. Honestly, I promise you, it's 4-4. And he goes, yeah, right, mate. Yeah, we're 90 plus 4, mate. We just conceded our 4th goal. We're losing the game 4-2. It's done deal. You're winding me up. See 4-4, and the connection comes back, and we see the action that has unfolded. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, just take a look at that. You know, we can break it down. We can talk about players. We can talk about how it's tactically set up. Forget that. Just look at that additional time. The additional time was here. 4 goals in 9 minutes, but it's actually only meant to be 6 minutes of additional time. Only meant to be 6 minutes. That's when the 3rd goal came in. And there was one more. It was George Dobson who made it 4-4. And that was, I imagine, pretty, I mean, it was crazy, but I imagine for the Valley and in the Valley, that was also pretty mental as well. I don't think many Charlton fans had actually realised what they'd witnessed. Ben Garner as well got sent off. There's a very good photo of him sort of getting the crowd, getting the home fans going. It was just, I mean, he actually got sent off. It doesn't actually say when he got sent off in the match, but I think they were losing at that point. And of course they got one back. Raksaki made it 2-1. I think it was actually just in between sort of all of this action here. Raksaki made it 2-1, then 2-2, and then, you know, these 2 goals go in. Freddie Ladapo, Sam Morsey. It should be game, set and match. But no, Terrell Thomas and George Dobson make it quite spectacular day out, you'd say, at the Valley. Pretty spectacular afternoon. Albie Morgan had a really, really good game, and he played an 8.1 in the match. Actually, did a really good job. Didn't start the match, actually, because of an injury to Egbo, but it forced him on the field. Got a goal and an assist, 36 touches, 1 key pass, a really good accuracy of passing, about 86%. He had a really good game. As for Ipswich, you have got to give Ipswich credit. I mean, even though they did draw the game, which they definitely should have won, they did play well. And for them now, it will be frustration, and it will be sort of the game management and concentration thing that they'll be ruining, because, I'll repeat it again. There is no way you should be losing a game when you score 2 goals in injury time. There is no way you should draw that game, and they did. So that would be a real disappointment. I look at the stats here. Ipswich 51% possession, 18 shots to 9 on target. 5. They probably should have done a little bit better. They actually had more shots on target, Charlton, than Ipswich, and had double the shot or half the shots, and Ipswich had double of them. So they probably should be doing better and getting more shots off and testing the goalkeeper in a different kind of way. They weren't able to, and in the end, it was just a pretty remarkable Charlton afternoon. It does finish 4-4, and I just go back to that story with Ryan on the train. When we saw 4-2 in injury time, the 4th minute of injury time. It's game, set and match, mate. Don't wind me up. As for Charlton, of course, very disappointing defeat against MK Dons on Tuesday. They needed to get a result and get a bit of reaction from the game against Ipswich yesterday. And they did. They definitely did. 23 points now after 17 games. Now only 4 points from that top 6. And that's a really good point on the road. At home. Ipswich on the road, 37 points from 17 games. A little bit, I'd say inconsistent. They have won 3 from the last 5 and only lost 1 in the last 5. But, you'd still... that should have been 3 points, shouldn't it? It should have been 3 points, whether you like it or not. But it isn't. It's 4-4. And it's a pretty crazy afternoon at the Vale. Right, let's move on then to a really quick debrief of the rest of the games, just going through the scores. Barnsley beat Forest Green Rovers comfortably 2-0. Great result for Barnsley, who needed that win massively. Peterborough United defeat Mark Bonner's Cambridge United by 1-0. Bolton Wanderers as Oxford, we've touched on. Wycombe, very disappointing home draw to Morecambe. Expect more from that type of side and more from Wycombe Wanderers. Disappointing home draw there. As for Port Vale, they beat Lincoln City, a bit unexpected. Another clean sheet for Loney. Jack Stevens, of course, from Oxford United. You do like to see it, but Lincoln City disappointing with that one. Cheltenham 0, MK Dons 0. Not much going on that one. I don't imagine that was an amazing game of football. It finishes 0-0. MK Dons second half much better. In the first half, very even. And finally, Fleetwood against Accrington Stanley. Fleetwood get back on track with a 3-0 win against Accrington Stanley. Of course, John Coleman's Accrington Stanley, very disappointing. And now, actually, they've lost, I think it's 6 or 7, I think it's 6 games on the bounce. That's very worrying, and something that John Coleman needs to sort out very quickly, because they could be dragged into a very serious, it's actually, 4 games on the bounce, very serious relegation battle. They're really bad. So they need to sort themselves out, and that is not a good way of doing it, losing 3-0 away from home against Fleetwood, who are now 15th in the league. That is the league table, and that's where I'm going to round everything off. Of course, the Devon Derby tomorrow is going to be very interesting. You can watch that on Sky Sports. It's not sponsored by Sky Sports, but Sky Sports do get in content if you fancy it. I'm just letting you know, watch the game of League One football, because it's going to be really good. And I expect a feisty match between those two Devonshire sides. I've been Jack. This has been the Unfan Podcast. Leave a like, 100 likes, 4,000 subscribers before Christmas. That would be incredible. I've been Jack. This is the Unfan Podcast. Take care, stay safe. I'll see you all very soon. Take care.